morning all. We often fear that the revolution needed is too big for what we can give. Too much change is required inside, outside, and we are too small. But all that is required is that you step into the truth of your life and speak it, write it, paint it, dance it, that you shine your light on your truth for the world to see. And as hundreds, then thousands, then millions do this, each sparking the courage of yet more, suddenly we have a world alike the truth. Together, we are learning to move from raw emotion and frozen muscles into a flow which emerges deep from within. We are learning to dance our prayers, bleed our words onto the page, laugh our images onto the canvas, build our dreams in the world, to transmute and transmit the energy of feminine through our bodies and out into the world. A warm good morning to Honorable Dignitary Dr. Kalpana Gopalan IAS, Principal Dr. J. Mohan, Dr. Rajvarma Pampa, and all my dear friends. Welcoming each one of you to the live webinar on Leading Ladies of Life with the topic Youth Empowerment and Leadership, presented by Honorable Dr. Kalpana Gopalan IAS, Additional Chief Secretary, Department of Public Grievances, Redressal and Youth Empowerment, Government of Karnataka. I request you all to wait for along. We are waiting for our chief guest. Chief guest for today's live webinar on Leading Ladies of Life is Honorable Dr. Kalpana Gopalan IAS, and she has joined the session with us. Dr. Kalpana Gopalan IAS is a composite public policy professional, a true versatilist. She wears many hats: practitioner, policymaker, scholar, author, and a mother. She secured 19th rank in All India Civil Service Examination 1987. She is the recipient of the Mother Teresa Women Empowerment Award for outstanding contribution to excellence in leadership, the International Human Rights Award under the Women of Courage category 2019, the Sexy Brilliant COVID Leadership Award, the Social Activist Pratibha Samman, and the SAARC Nations Human Rights Association Award. She was recognized as a great barrier of humanity by International Human Rights Advisory Council for her outstanding performance, commitment, dedication, and contribution towards humanitarian service and best practice on COVID-19 prevention, and was appreciated by UNICEF and Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences for her support in COVID-19 response. A gold medalist and university topper in her undergraduate and master's, she is a sought-after speaker and has delivered over 400 talks in different platforms, including national and global audiences. She presents papers in national and international fora and has published 4 books and many journal articles. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning to this live webinar. Kindly requesting you to take over the session.
Just give me a minute. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Thank you all.
Good morning, ma'am.
And thank you all for being here this Saturday morning. Faculty, students, and staff of the LBS Institute of Technology for Women, Trivandrum, organizers of today's program, lovely ladies and gentlemen gathered here. I count myself lucky to be among all of you this evening, sharing this special day, a day that gives a voice to our struggles and our stories. I take this opportunity to share a few thoughts with you. Next slide, please. Move on to the next slide.
Just 1 minute, ma'am.
Let's stay in the second slide. I once read the story of a baby eagle. It had dropped down into a hen coop and grew up with a lot of chickens. It believed that it too was a chicken. The story ends with the young eaglet wistfully looking up at the sky and yearning to fly. It does not know its own power. We have had other such stories. The ugly duckling transforming into a swan, for instance. And all such stories have in common a search for a self-identity. Next slide, please. The story set me thinking. Am I an eagle or a hen? I have done many things that may be counted courageous and brave. I have stood my ground to do the right thing, resisted unimaginable pressure, or quelled mobs with only my voice as a weapon. But there are also those unglamorous times when I have painstakingly cleared papers and files or fussed over my children quite like a mother hen. I have danced at parties in pretty colors. Does that make me a peacock? And when I burnt midnight oil to complete my PhD thesis, was I an owl? And I must admit, I have been nervous and fearful so many times. From simple things like asking a question in class to talking back to a nasty confrontationist colleague, I have been full of hesitation and reluctance. Am I just a nervous chicken then? And then I thought, it hardly matters, does it? We each have a journey. We each play so many roles. We cannot be defined, stereotyped, or slotted into some one personality. We change and we grow. We are one and many at the same time and over the course of a lifetime. I cannot claim that I'm always an eagle, nor that an eagle is better than a hen. So, if I have a message for you all, the first is stop this search for an identity. You are what you are. Yourself and your contribution are valuable. Next slide, please. Let me introduce you to Sunidhi. That's that little girl sitting at the table. Sunidhi is about 12 years old and visually challenged. I met her at the Asha Kirana School for the Blind in Chikmagalur. Sunidhi is hardly conscious of what others would call her disability. When I met her, she was busy playing blind chess, quickly feeling with her fingers and moving the pawns, her face full of the joy of accomplishment. When I met her, I said, I will not be surprised if Sunidhi becomes a champion soon. And sure enough, she went ahead and won the first prize at the first FIDA Blind Chess Championships in Goa in April 2019. Sunidhi is what I call a leading lady, a heroine of life. Next slide, please. Anna is a hairstylist. I have known her for over a decade now. Anna is from Darjeeling and is Nepalese by descent. She came to Bangalore about 15 years ago searching for work. Those were the days when Bangalore women were just discovering beauty parlors and spas, and Anna's beautician skills came in handy. Over the years, as Anna gently massaged my head or combed my hair, we used to discuss everything. Her home in Darjeeling, her parents and sisters, her son as he grew from a child to a teenager, her early life in Bangalore when she felt so vulnerable and alone, how she met and fell in love with and married a fellow Nepali in Bangalore. So many small things. I saw Anna go through difficult times, nagging sicknesses caused by Bangalore's toxic air, and then the tragic blow when she suddenly lost her husband to cancer. It was then that I saw Anna's courage and grit come to the fore. At no time did she let her vulnerability or her aloneness get her down. At no time did she let her clients down. When her employer sacked her without notice, Anna remembered that I had a pending appointment and came to my home to attend to it. Yes, Anna never let me down. She never broke down. She has overcome adversity and now She runs her own parlor in Koramangalam. Anna is another leading lady of life. Next slide, please. If there's one thing that I find in common among the lovely, generous, courageous women that I have known, it is their authenticity. They go about their daily lives, working, laughing, exercising choices. They are hardly conscious that they are scripting history, but they are scripting not only their own history, but the history of all women. Next slide, please. So, this is my second message to you. Let us develop backbones instead of wishbones. Some years ago, in celebration of International Women's Day, the United Nations put up a photo essay titled A Day in the Life of Women. It offers a glimpse into the lives of teachers, farmers, businesswomen, politicians, mothers, law enforcers across the world. Women and girls who contribute every day in many visible and invisible ways. How much diversity and variety in our roles, lives, and responsibilities. Given the multiplicity and contextual dissimilarities, we often cannot rely on precedents set by others. We need to forge our own path as we go along. Next slide, please. If all this is about how you engage with the world, how the world engages with you is a whole other ballgame. Your looks, dress, and social behavior all will be watched and commented upon, sometimes with camaraderie, sometimes viciously. Men can be jealous and malicious. So can women. But others' pettiness is not your problem. Move on. Most days, after I dress in the morning, I forget that I am a woman. That is not unusual. But my best days have been when those around me, officers, staff, they forget that I am a woman. My bestest days are those very, very rare moments when they even forget that I am their boss. Their ownership of the project or the task becomes so strong that they feel that I am not doing enough, and so they snatch it from my hand and they do it themselves. In public life, there is hypocrisy, venality, corruption. But beyond it all, there is something which defies labeling. When you put head, heart, and hands into something, those very same corrupt and venal forces not only just make way, but even cooperate with enthusiasm. Therefore, never lose faith in your fellow men and fellow women. Next slide. How can women help other women? There are large issues that we need to engage with. Let us look at the pledge for parity. In this, as in so many other things, the government is far ahead of the private sector, and India is far ahead of the rest of the world. Equality in substantial terms is a given in government. All government employees in India enjoy one grade, one pay equality. But this is an issue where we have to work shoulder to shoulder to build consensus, demand legislation, encourage corporates to lead each other by example, and the courts to lead all by mandate. We need to work together for this. There are also the trivial issues of day-to-day life and work. We speak a lot about sisterhood, but does sisterhood really exist? Yes, women understand your reality probably better than men. But we see an attitude of willful indifference when mothers do not accord daughters the same privileges as sons, or mothers-in-law treat their daughters-in-law as if they belong to an altogether different species. We see this in workplaces when women colleagues turn a blind eye when one of them is a victim to harassment. Sometimes we see this in a policewoman who, instead of empathizing with a victim of dowry or abuse, else and roughs her up. Or when a mother aborts a female fetus. Many a time, women may want to help one another, but may be unable to do so. Thus, understanding does not translate into actual support. Small things like encouraging a daughter to find her dreams and help her achieving them, appreciating the efforts and helping a woman at home, treating all children, whether boy or girl, equally, trying to avoid pettiness and jealousy in your daily working and personal life. All these will impact society positively and tremendously more than any webinar or Women's Day celebration can. So this would be my next takeaway. Self-reliance. Observe everyone, learn from everyone, but rely on yourself. Next slide, please. A woman nourishes. A woman inspires. I think you will all remember the floods in Kodagu in 2008, at the same time that Kerala was also devastated by floods. Hundreds of people lost their livelihoods and homes overnight as they witnessed everything they own being washed away. At the time, I was district secretary of Kodagu district. I was tasked with overseeing the rescue and relief operations in Kodagu. Kodagu is another name for Kurg. On reaching Madikeri, I immediately began coordinating with the district administration, the army, navy, air force, and so on to expedite the rescue operations. The prospects were bleak in the first 2 days. Many thousands were stranded, and the rescue teams were struggling to reach them in hostile conditions. It was a tense time. Many lives hung on our decisions, and delays could be fatal. We had put the resources of the army and air force to the rescue efforts, but it wasn't enough. It was at that time, on the morning of 17th August, that I was approached by Jetna. Jetna is General Thimmaya National Academy of Adventure, but I had never heard of them before that day. They volunteered their skills. They wanted to participate in the rescue efforts. Though we were in need of manpower for rescue operations, I was always cautious about earnest volunteers who wished to help without understanding the perils of nature's fury. But something about the Jetna team inspired my confidence. I questioned them carefully, satisfying myself regarding their skill and professionalism. Then I decided to give them the go-ahead. It was a decision fraught with risk. At that time, I had no one to either consult or take advice from, nor time to postpone the decision. It was done then. I was exhilarated to see that Jetna not only participated in the efforts, but they rescued baby, a girl child just 2 months old, carrying her across the angry river in Spate. The video of this rescue effort and baby herself became inspirational for an anxious public. That split-second decision saved that little girl baby. It is a feeling of fulfillment I will carry with me for life. Baby is a leading lady of my life. Next slide, please. Next slide. So let me go back to my example of the eagle and hen. So go back to that slide. The American writer Alice Walker said, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking that they do not have any. For me, it hardly matters whether I or you are an eagle or a hen. What matters is that neither of us should spend our lives in a cage or a coop. There is tremendous aspirational, inspirational, and motivational value to being a woman leader, a woman of power. All of us have a lot of power, more than we realize. The women of India and the world have infinitely more. Let us resolve to use our power to the maximum. Today, eagles and hens, peacocks and owls, chickens, swans and ducks. Let us all resolve to flap our wings and fly. Thank you all. Good luck. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful talk which you have delivered to us. It's going to be a wonderful insight which is going to inspire us throughout our life. The baby's face will always remain us throughout our life. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Raja.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really a wonderful session. Now we can go to the question answer session.
Yeah. You close the slide, please.
So if you have any queries, please feel free to post them in the chat, or you may also unmute and the question directly.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
Ma'am, I had a query. Ma'am, many a times what happens is that even though we are willing to contribute to our society and become free, our society doesn't allow it. And moreover, our family is sometimes not ready for that. So more often we end up stopping it. So, or just leaving up the idea. So was there any such problem with you? And if so, how did you handle that? And how did you manage to reach till here?
Okay. Okay, let me give you my own example. My family has always been a family which valued education a lot. And the emphasis was always that study hard, go in for higher education, go to university. So that was always, I've been brought up on that. But sometime in the 1980s, when I was doing my BA final, one of my uncles decided that I should get married. And my parents, on the one side, having throughout my life emphasized the importance of education, they kind of surrendered, because another tenet in the family is deference to elders. So when an elder in the family said, no, we should get her married, now she's old enough. I was about maybe 19 or so around that time, 1920s, 20. And my parents just deferred. And this was shocking to me, because I never conceived that such a thing could happen. For me, the natural progression was to do my BA finals, and I was a very good student, and then to go on to my MA. And I was brought up in Chennai, conservative town. I actually could not conceive of a life beyond my, somebody can, please mute your mics. I don't hear myself. So I couldn't conceive of a life without going in for further studies. And I remember that I used to be studying for my BA final exams, and I used to rush out of my room and beg my parents, beg, plead, yell, cry, everything, that I must do my MA. I must do my MA. Life without MA was inconceivable for me. But my horizon was so limited that I did not even think beyond an MA. But not to do an MA was inconceivable. But somehow I prevailed, and my uncle pulled back. My parents agreed, and I went on to do my MA, and then another MA, and then a master's in IIM Bangalore, and then a PhD. And I did get married also along the way. So, there are some times in life when, sometimes you leave it to serendipity. Life leads you. The flow of life will lead you the right way. Sometimes you exercise choice. Your heart will tell you when is that time. I was not a child who had, a lot of confrontations with my parents. But this was one time, without even realizing it myself, I put my foot down and exercised choice. So I think life will tell you, and your heart will tell you. And don't think that society doesn't want, family doesn't want. Start small. Don't think of, changing the lives of all women in Kerala. No, start with those who are immediately around you. Your neighbor, your family, your friends, those who most need help. Start with contributing there. And believe me, it will grow. If you are always thinking, you are young, so your dreams are big. But take that first step. If you're always dreaming, it's never going to happen. Start small. Start with those nearest to you. Start with those who need your help, your contribution the most. It could be anybody, even your mother. Start there.
Absolutely right, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Now we have received a question in the chat box by Shweta. So, ma'am, the question is, what are the most important attributes of successful women leaders today?
I think it is authenticity. They don't try to fake. They don't even have time to fake. One more thing I think is ethics. They've got where they are, not by shortcuts, but by sheer hard work, intelligence, merit. I am often asked, what are the big decisions which you made in life? What were the decisions? So people usually think that, the big decision I made was to get into IAS. I wouldn't say that. After all, when I started my career, choices available to both women and men were very limited. You could become a doctor or an engineer or an IAS officer, and the next level you would become a lawyer. The enormous and a teacher. The enormous opportunities which are available to your generation, where you can have a respectable livelihood doing what you love, are not usually available for us. So if you ask me what is the big choice, the choice was not to enter the IAS. The choice which I made, the big decision I made was made much before that. And I have continued that throughout my life. My biggest career decision, whether it was my academic career or my career in public service or my career as a volunteer, was that I will do what best I can without using any kind of unethical methods. It is only by sheer hard work, by sheer intelligence, by working like a donkey, and following ethical practice, no lobbying, never to hurt or harm anyone. So in order to succeed, because that was your question, that the attribute of successful women. In order to succeed, if you want that success to be sustainable, then get there using the right means. People have forgotten Mahatma Gandhi, but it was Mahatma Gandhi who emphasized to us that the end does not determine the means. The means and the end are equally important. So the destination, your success in your career, it is important. I'm not going to say be a sannyasin and give up everything, but how you get there is equally important. And believe me, I have had my share of frustrations. I have had my share of disappointments. It is not an easy path. When you decide not to lobby, not to pull anyone down, not to lie, not to cheat, not to use any unethical means whatsoever, the path is going to be gradual. The path is going to be a struggle, but you will get there. Today, I can hold my head high and say that whatever I have done, there are just 3 ingredients of my recipe, and that is intelligence, hard work, merit. And yeah, the 4th important ingredient is faith. Faith in myself, faith in the universe, faith in people around me. So that, I think, is the key. So if, this is what I can see as the attribute of a successful woman. Mrudula asks, who do you look up to for inspiration or mentorship? Not 1 or 2, Mrudula. The women whom I meet every day. I'm not going to point out a great role model to you. You will find plenty of them splashed across. Some are on the newspapers, some are in history books. I draw my inspiration from a leading lady, and that's why I named it the Talk Leading Ladies of Life. Sunidhi is my role model. She did not, and she does not let her handicap get her down. She's always smiling. I have never seen Sunidhi without a smile. Anna is my leading lady of life. So these are all, that little baby is my leading lady. I take that, she did nothing. She slept through the whole thing when she was being rescued, but she inspired the whole state. And we women have that capacity to do so even without trying. That's a real picture, which I have shown you there. So I take my inspiration from people I meet every day. People who are real, people who are truthful, who are honest and trustworthy. Yeah. Do youth, I just look at Arya's question. Do youth face more pressure for high performance than previous generation? Oh no, make no mistake. We faced a lot of pressure. I was brought up with the burden of very high expectations. But the thing is, the difference is the opportunities available were fewer. And so probably somewhere you reconciled or you were content with, as where you are the highest where you could go. But today the opportunities are so many, it seems almost a crime to waste them. But the opportunities remain elusive even today. But I have tried. Because I was brought up with that burden of very high expectations, I have tried not to put that kind of pressure on my children. But if it does not come from parents, it comes from peer groups, it comes from teachers, and it comes from society at large, which values success regardless of how you get there. So I think in that way, maybe, there's a greater pressure on your generation. But parents were a big source of our generation. I think at least your faculty will agree with me. Somebody was asking a question before I go to Gauri's. I interrupted someone. There was an oral question. Is there anyone whose question I missed? Okay. Gauri says, how did you manage to keep yourself steady and motivated throughout your journey? See, very, very long ago, I made this resolution. I think when I first did this, I couldn't even articulate it to myself very clearly. Today, I'm able to say that in words. But whatever I wanted to get it the right way. I think that was about as far as I could articulate it, which meant that I would never do something which I feel is wrong. And believe me, that doesn't mean, you should go by a value system. I mean, people can, go without guilt all their lives, even when they are doing wrong. But that is not it. You have to go by a value system. And I think that is one way that, I will not swerve from that. In fact, I've even forgotten to do. Even if I find someone bitching about me, I cannot bitch back. I've lost that talent because that is rusted from long disuse, that kind of talent. So I cannot even do it anymore. But that was one that, I will not do anything unethical. Will not never harm or hurt anyone. To get what I want, I will not lobby, I will not lie, I will not cheat. So that is one. So I can hold my head high that, even if I see others getting ahead, I feel that I am on that path which I have chosen. So this is one. So that kind of self-belief in a way. The other is that I draw a lot of motivation from others around me. And I've seen women and men who have faced incredible adversity and come out triumphant. So that is also a source And you'll always, just as you'll always find a hand to hold around you, you'll also find a story to support you in times of distress. You'll find that around you. You just have to look.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Sanjana Kale. So it was a wonderful section, ma'am. I have to say it was all pictures, so it was so easy to understand what you were conveying. So it was a wonderful section. And what I have to ask is that what are the factors that we should be aware when we are stepping into the new society as a woman and as a person that want to succeed in today's society? So what are the factors that we should be aware of?
You should be open to information. Your generation and women in general, okay, they will have this habit that they will seek information from known sources. Not wrong, okay, from the grapevine, that you'll ask your sister's husband's cousin to tell you which are the benefits available for startups, say. Okay, it is fine in its way, but it is not enough, because there is so much information available in books and on the internet, in bulletins. So first keep yourself open and seek information. So that is probably the first thing which you do, which we don't do enough. Partly because we don't have time, but partly because we feel more comfortable asking somebody instead of putting the trouble of taking the trouble of actually researching. The second is that not so much at your age, but as you get into a career, be open to asking for help. This is again, I find at least my daughter's generation, they are much more open in seeking help than we were. We were very close. It was very difficult asking for help, but you should be able to ask for help from your friends, from your relations. Now, if you are a working woman, let us say somebody is needed to look after children, ask someone for help. Be open to doing that. And then be open to what experience life gives to you. These are very, very broad things, these factors, but small things are not really going to stand you in stead for the rest of your life. So this is something, and you'll find motivation, inspiration in very small things. You'll find ideas in very small things. Let me give you the story of Meera Sharan, who is from your own state of Kerala. I had gone to Cochin, Rajgiri Institute, to give a talk on entrepreneurship. And at that time, Meera was a MBA student, and she was in the audience. And I spent maybe an hour or so with them, first speaking to them, then answering questions, interacting with them. And she was so inspired that she went ahead and she started her own firm after she graduated with her sister, which she called Wordsmith, which is basically a firm dealing with books and publications. So that was her passion, and she started a firm, a startup. And Meera then wrote to me on LinkedIn. She connected with me on LinkedIn, and she said, your speech was my inspiration. And I was so thrilled that, here was something that I saw right in front of my eyes, that, I changed her life even without knowing it. She would have spoken to me, but I certainly did not remember her after a few years had passed. But she was generous enough and kind enough to get back to me and tell me. So, that is, keep yourself open to that experience which life may give, and you never know when it will click.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is there any further queries or questions to ask, ma'am? Okay, so I believe all your doubts have been clarified. So we are winding up the question answer session. Thank you, ma'am. It was really helpful and motivating. Now I invite Danya for the vote of thanks.
Good morning, ma'am. Before starting my vote of thanks, I'd like to say that examples given by you were very much relative, and we could relate it with our real life. And Suniti's example was also really motivative for me. And your messages were simple to understand, but at the same time, worth implementing in everyone's life. You made us understand how small changes or decisions taken in our house can lead to women empowerment. And ma'am, you had mentioned about many leading ladies from your life experiences. But one thing that I'd like to say is that you have become a leading lady for all of us present in this session. And I'm sure that no one here would deny this.
And at last, I'd like to thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us today. And I'd also like to thank our Srilata ma'am, Associate Professor, Computer Science Department, and Nandan sir from Placement Cell. And a very big thanks to Rajavarma Pamba ma'am for giving us this awesome opportunity to be with you and also to coordinate this program. And also thanks to our senior Fatima from S8 for making this program smooth going, and also to all student coordinators who have led the way for this webinar and leading this webinar towards success, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. It was a wonderful session, which we all is going to remember throughout our life.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.